Hi, and welcome to Business Unusual, where we talk about what happens when business unusual becomes business as usual. I am Liz Whitehead, and I'm here with my co-mastermind, Heather Cox.
Hi, I'm Heather Cox, co-mastermind of Diversity Masterminds.
And we're here today with Julia Craighill. Hi, Julia.
Hello.
And before we get into it, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and Green Office Academy and what you do?
Okay, so Julia Craighill, as you said, and my company is Insight Consulting. So we're a sustainability consulting that helps companies green the everyday operations of their offices, workplaces, and buildings. So it's kind of a bifurcated thing. One part is on the workplace, which can be leased or owned, and the other part focuses on existing buildings. So you asked about the Green Office, and the Green Office really was my pandemic pivot. And I think we're going to be talking about that. So
Yeah.
so appropriate. And, diving right in, when the pandemic hit, the two sort of sources of income that I had completely dried up. One was that for the past 7 years, I have been the consultant to Montgomery County Department of Environmental Protection, helping to coach applicant companies through their green business certification.
Interesting.
I lived here for 25 years before getting the contract and didn't even know it existed. And so that, was sort of a regular thing as companies would come in, I would coach them through it, and they get it for free. So if you're in Montgomery County, it's a great program.
Montgomery County, Maryland.
Oh yeah, I was like, are we in Mississippi? I couldn't figure out where we were. Okay, there you go.
You too, yeah. And then the second is that I really come from the building industry. I started my career as an architect and then went into general construction and then became a director of green building and sustainability. So I am a licensed assessor for a green building certification that most likely you haven't heard of, called BREEAM. And it's the original green building certification out of the UK and very well known globally outside of the United States.
So yeah, I was going to say, tell us how Green Office Academy came out, because those two things seem kind of different. So how did this
the
come
here
together?
and here.
Really what happened was that both of them dried up. I think that the uncertainty made it such that people weren't certifying their buildings to BREEAM. It's new to the US to begin with. And then on the office side, the same was true. People weren't in their offices. They couldn't really focus on greening the office, which is what the green building, green business certification is. It really focuses on the office operation. So it was that sort of part of my work that I took off on and said, okay, I'm going to develop my own set of courses online that can be accessible to anybody, to teach them how to green their office. So
Awesome.
That's what the Green Office Academy is.
Demonstrated. Awesome. So tell us about what are some things you see going forward? How has Green Office Academy grown? How did you initiate it? How did that go?
Well, okay. So when sort of everything was sort of shut down, I really spent the time studying a lot. Well, first of all, I took an online course on how to make an online course.
What course was that?
As meta as that is, it was, it was lying in bed scrolling through Facebook, like, what is my life become here? And this ad comes up, and it's
because you were thinking about it, and they know what you're thinking about. I'm telling you.
Isn't that amazing? I didn't
even search for it. I just thought about it.
It never occurred to me. And it's a woman, Grace Lever, out of she's Australian, and she did a 5-day challenge that was free. And so I was like, hey, I'm not busy. I'll do this on Facebook. I took this 180-degree turn during the pandemic, and she took us through some exercises that were really excellent. And the other coaching and sort of marketing advice that I had gotten over the years was sort of nothing compared to this in terms of customer discovery. And from there, the short answer is I really went towards trying to sell, and for lack of a better word, maybe you guys can help me, sell this course retail, because it was kind of the only avenue available. So I went heavily into social media, LinkedIn, Facebook groups, Instagram, knowing that that was not the ideal avenue, because let's say, well, first of all, nobody was in their office, very few. And if you are, and you happen to be on Facebook, are you really going to be the decision maker? And to a great extent, the likelihood was not great. Although I went through a whole long launch, I had freebies, sort of lead magnets, and through various ways, I accumulated an email list on Green Office. I already had one on existing buildings, and when I went through a whole launch period for the roadmap course, which would be 6 weeks long, I did have 3 companies that were interested, actually. One was a large multinational, and they wanted their Detroit, LA, and Rome offices to participate, which really is the perfect thing, is a larger company and have several of their offices, because they're going to have different criteria, but it's such a great way for the staff to get to know each other and exchange ideas.
It's like a team building in addition to environmental sustainability.
Right. And sustainability is a team sport. So, but it wasn't the right, the woman was a huge advocate, but it just wasn't the right timing. So I ended up not doing that. But another part I'm doing is creating sort of self-study, entirely self-study. The roadmap course would have educational videos, worksheets that you can work on to create your own strategic action plan of how to green your office. And then it was also coached. So it would be weekly calls to sort of go over where you are and give you some guidance. That's one part. What I'm doing right now is building entirely self-study courses on a single topic. And and
they're on demand, they're written, how are they given?
On demand. And the one that's about to get posted right now is on purchasing, which was a much deeper dive than I had predicted. When it's self-study, you can't sort of talk to somebody and see where their interest lies and go there. You've got to lay out the entire landscape of sustainability, and then how purchasing, which touches everything.
Every part, right?
Yeah, your supply chain, not only what you hold in your hand, but the whole supply chain implications. So it turned out to be a whole lot more hefty than I had
anticipated. Yeah.
Well, this combines a lot of our interests. So certification,
right?
Right. Online courses, which we have, and purchasing. We just come at it from a totally different angle.
Right.
Yeah. When I found you guys, I was like, they're doing what I want to be doing. Very, very, very similar. Yeah.
Well, because some people really, there's some people like me who probably won't get it done by themselves, right? Like I'm very self-motivated for some things, but I don't know, I don't read, Liz and I laugh all the time. I do Audible because I'm not going to read. I can do it as I'm on my cardio, whatever, right? So some people really need that live, but some people are really good about doing the on-demand when it suits them, right? Especially if it's employees that can do it during work time, when it'll be a little bit of a break from the monotony of what they normally do. But this way, they're doing something that's still good for the company, and they can do it on their own schedule. So maybe it's during a lunch break, or they have a hefty meeting that took them 2 hours, and they're like, I just cannot So like, okay, get back to work right away. I want to do this. So that's a great option for a lot of people to do the on-demand version. But I just want to give you kudos for saying 180-degree change, because when people say 360, it drives me nuts. So the fact that you use the correct degree amount, very impressed.
On vacation, had a whole big argument about that. No,
If you go 360, you end up in the same spot, people.
I was joking and saying that we were doing 360 because we were circling back to where we were. It's
right.
It's a long story. Okay.
Right. We digress, as we often do. It's okay. Right. So are you having fun? It sounds like you're having fun with this new kind of like side path that you've taken with it.
It's definitely, it's exciting. It's something that I can work on without having a client. It's an asset that I'll always have.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the passive income.
Right.
Promise. At least the completely self-study ones. And so I think there's a lot of potential. It's interesting when you said it's hard to get motivated. I have been motivated and working hard at it. What I'm not good at is saying this is good enough. And
we have a whole expression about that.
yeah.
If you're not embarrassed by the first thing you put out, you waited too long to put it out.
Okay. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, I have all these like Post-it notes. Do one thing that scares you every day, like trying to like get myself to do that. I like that. I'm going to
write that down. Yeah. So Allison Maslin, who runs, Pinnacle Global Network, she always says, don't worry, be crappy, right? It doesn't matter. Whatever you put out, eventually you're going to be like, oh, that wasn't good. Like no matter what you do. So just get it out there, because if you know A and B and somebody only knows A, you're the expert.
Yeah. What Grace says is it's MIA, massive imperfect action.
Yeah.
Is what one should do.
Yeah. And someone just gave me a shirt that says perfectly imperfect, because we can't strive for something. We're never going to attain it. Right. So you can always, even if you put out the most, what you think is perfect, you watch it 10 times, you're like, oh my God, did you see that my hair flew to the side there? It's not going to be perfect.
Well, and in the purchasing, there's always like, oh, gee, you really should talk about this. And I'm like, this is overwhelming. So it's become an almost, if you're not a purchasing professional and know 2/3 of this already, I think it's going to be actually overwhelming, because it's a lot of information.
Well, you can also break that one down. Like it could be that one needs to be into like 3 different parts or whatever it is. Right. So, there's so many different ways that you can, what is it? You can slice the carrot, cut the pie. What is it?
Slice the pie?
I don't know. What's the expression? There's different ways you can divvy things up. I don't know the expression.
Yes.
Dice it.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. But I think, that's something we learned too, which is like, you can't just download everything you've learned in
Your vomit information at people,
decades of experience in an hour-long class. It's just not going to work. And they can't absorb it. So you've got to give it to them in little bites, in the way they can absorb it. So,
okay. So you mentioned a few different certifications that you have, right? So you have what'd you call it? The one that's the sustainability.
So I am a licensed. So this is a license.
Okay.
I started out with an architecture license, but I've let that lapse. So it's BREEAM or BREEAM. So I'm a licensed assessor for this green building rating system.
And then you have some diversity certifications?
Yes, I am an MBE, WBE, DBE with the state of Maryland. And I am a WeBank and WOSB.
Woo woo. Love those. Yes.
And just got off the We Thrive, by the way.
I heard that's amazing. I have not yet had a chance to jump on it, but I heard it's fantastic.
Yes, and I'm part of that's great. And then I learned about Waste Management has something called Share the Green, where you get to pitch. So tomorrow I'll be pitching, and I feel very hopeful now that I'm a member of WeBank, because I think they've given, and nobody's paying me to say this, they just give you great opportunities.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
And my target market is a company that has a bunch of offices, and they don't have the bandwidth to figure out how to green their own offices, but they know they need to do it. And they don't want to, sort of do this this is a way that their staff can fit it in in between their tasks as opposed to committing to some big consulting, strategic planning gig. So,
right. And how long have you been in business?
7 years.
7 years. And before that?
Before that, 10 years as an architect, 10 years as a general commercial contractor.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yes.
So is that where you got your love of kind of like the sustainability component of buildings?
Yeah, that is because I was a registered architect, and as a commercial construction manager, the architects really wanted to work with me. They knew that I understand
Right.
what they were trying to achieve. And I got some great opportunities, including a very, very sustainable building, even by today's standards, that I did in 1998. And so building that building really got the wheels going, like, oh, wow, there's this whole thing called sustainability.
Yeah.
And then 2002, I became a lead AP. So that's another certification or accreditation that I have, is with LEED, and have been a great proponent of LEED. I think it's fabulous. It's changed the market. It's just for existing buildings, I don't think they have a good product. And that is why I've sort of switched horses for existing buildings over to BREEAM.
Right. And there's a building downtown that a big company took over in Las Vegas. And we always joke that it cost them more to bring it up to code than it would have been to like knock it down and just sort of rebuild it. But they wanted to keep that original look of the building. And it's a very cool building, but it costs a fortune to bring it up and make it sustainable. And the company is very big about sustainability. So they did everything they had to do, but it was not an inexpensive endeavor to do that.
But that is our future, because there's a lot of embedded carbon that and pollution and all sorts of things in those buildings. When you tear them down, that's all gone. So
that's yeah.
From a sustainability perspective, reusing a building is essential.
Oh, that's interesting.
We're gonna hit
So it was actually better sustainability wise, even though it cost more to keep the building than to just knock it down because of all the
much better.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean,
It is interesting.
The expression that I always use, which is coined from several people, everybody's taking credit for it, is the greenest building is the one that already exists.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, especially now, like nobody can get lumber. Nobody can get, like, there's such a shortage of so many of these supplies right now.
Yeah.
In the supply chain.
Huge supply chain issues.
It's a big problem. And so all of a sudden things that were costing like $20 are now $50 just because you can't get them anymore.
So speaking about the supply chain, I want to bring in two of the things we talked about. So you're WBE and an MBE through Maryland, but then also you have this like purchasing, module for what you talk about.
Mm-hmm.
How do you manage your purchasing? Do you purchase from diverse suppliers and sustainable suppliers, and how do you manage that?
Well, yeah, and I got to say, it's maybe sort of cobbler's shoes. Fortunately, my children, and I didn't drill, I raised my two kids to sort of leading by example, as it were, but as they've become adults, they've really gotten into sustainability. So particularly my daughter and I are always trying to find sort of better sourcing. But I would say the first thing that you want to do when you're purchasing, and this doesn't really get at what you're saying, is like not purchase. Okay, so just like the existing building is the greenest one, not buying anything. So I would say that's my primary strategy. Is there something, can I do without and have something else? But then other than that, I do try to source from green providers that have green products. So if that's in the grocery store and it's something that's organic or local, or if that's even office supplies. So I am very focused on the environment. I have to admit it. So that is my top
priority.
Mm-hmm.
Then I hate to say this, if it's women owned, that's like sort of, if we're looking.
You don't have to hate to say that. We love that. We love that you look for women owned, for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I do, because I'm always like, that thing on the store that has that woman owned. Well, that's sort of what I am. So it helps me, except as a service provider. So
Yeah, no, that's great. I think that really brings it, people they think about purchasing in terms of like goods and service and stuff they buy. Like, what am I getting off the shelf? But I think most people don't think about the services that
They
they
forget
buy.
about the
Like,
services, right?
yeah. Like, as your landscaper, do they have like a sustainability thing? So I think I think it's great. I think there's so many overlaps between people looking for sustainability in supply chains and people looking for diversity in supply chains. So yeah. So
I
this is
tend to
really
think
helpful.
of, I know I'm totally going to ask you a random question. I tend to think of sustainability as like carbon neutral stuff, right? How much paper do you use? Things like that. Packaging. What about water? Is water also something that you work on?
oh yeah. The roadmap module covers 9 topics.
Oh,
So many people are like, well, if it's the office, well, I lease it, so I don't have a lot of control over water and energy. And that's fine. There's still a lot you can do. You can
right.
look at your transportation. For most offices, and particularly service providers, and if you're flying around, that's probably your biggest impact is how you commute and how you travel for work. So there are a lot of other topics that you can look at purchasing. I'm going to now not remember
Of course, right. Put you on the
what they
spot. I'm
are,
sorry.
but and these are my own. But yeah, there's a lot of other topics that I like to say that sustainability is everything. So if you just, and that's why it's so hard to sort of break it down into bite-sized pieces, because once you get into it,
Everything. Yeah.
it relates to everything.
That's great. Well, if
that's
people
good.
want to green their offices, if they want to use your services, how do they find you?
Okay, so let me pull up
Website.
website. So if they want to go directly to the Green Office Academy, it's basically www.greenofficeacademy.com. Yes, I got that URL. And
don't you get excited when you get the URL you want? I know, I always get like so excited.
And then if they want my company, and that links to the Green Office Academy, it is www.ensightconsult. That's ENSIGHTCONSULT.com.
And we'll put a link to that underneath as well. Yeah. So people can find you.
Well, this is great. I think there's so many ways we can go with purchasing, and I love to see people on the sustainability side and how diversity works in. So thanks so much for this conversation today, Julia.
And I actually want to add one more.
Of course you did.
Of course I know. You know what would be really cool, because you mentioned your daughter. Sometimes I feel like the younger you start them, the better, right? Like a cute little module for parents to do with their kids, like how they can talk about saving water or paper, whatever the different sustainability components are that you're talking about, but like a kid one, right? Wouldn't that be so, like, wouldn't you love to do that with your boys, Liz?
Yes, absolutely.
Right? I mean, we already play the Find the Women O logo at the store game all the time with my kids. So if we could like find the sustainability options in the what, you know what I mean? Like maybe my kids will stop setting the air conditioning to 68 degrees when I'm not around, right? Like let's find like cool little cute ways to educate them. Or if you have a resource that's already existed, right? We don't always have to reinvent the wheel, but like that would be so fun, and to put people like on the right path, right? To the thing that you love the most, because sustainability is everything, as you said, right?
It's everything. It's overwhelming, and it comes with a tremendous amount of guilt. The more educated you are, the more.
I got the Jewish guilt thing down. I'm good. She's got the Catholic guilt thing. We're good.
Yeah,
we're not.
I would say there's so much. There's a lot on sustainability lifestyle, particularly on Instagram.
Interesting.
I've been on it. Go on Instagram, and you can start. And I bet you'll find a resource like you're talking about.
Yeah, so cute.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, fine. I'll do that.
Okay. So we have your website. We know how to find you. We'll go on Instagram for the kids. And thanks so much. Thanks so much for talking to us today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, it was so fun.
You guys. All right.
See you next time on Business Unusual.